Hi guys, and welcome back to my channel. Today I'm here with my next BYOP. I'm gonna go through the palette that I worked on for the last month, as well as choose some shades for the next month. And if you're new to this project, I always do my BYOP in my little palette here from Clionadh. Yeah, this is just good because you can fit a lot of shades, and I quite like this palette. It also has a mirror, which is really good. So you know, it's a good kind of everyday palette to have, and I like that it's slightly bigger than some of the other palettes that I have in, you know, as like smaller palettes. So this is what my palette looks like right now. This was my BYOP for the last month. Some things has changed because I removed all of the eyeshadows that I was panning and, you know, moved out of projects, things like that, and I replaced them with some new ones. So, you know, these three Colourpop singles here in the middle are panning shades. I also, this shadow right here is a new one that replaced a different Clionadh shadow that I was panning before, and so on. So this is what my palette looks like now. But before I actually jump into my use on this palette, as well as building my new palette, if you're new here, please consider subscribing. I would love to have you in the family. Let's just jump into the video. So before I actually remove all of these eyeshadows, I just want to go through my usage on them, because I like, you know, talking about that just to show you what I actually used in my BYOP for the month. The first shade in the palette, which is this light blue here, is called CL from Clionadh. I used this one twice. Next to that is shade the Crown Jewel, which is another blue, and I used that one twice. Next to that, on the top row, we have the shade Vermilion, which I used once, and next to that is Burnt Sienna, which I also used once. Next up, we have, like I said, a shade that I'm panning, so I'm not tracking the usage in my BYOP tracking, so I'm going to skip over this one. And then lastly, we have this iridescent shade again from Clionadh in the shade Spectrum, which I actually used 12 times, so quite a lot. I love these kind of, you know, sparkly shades for inner corners, and yeah, I loved using this one as an inner corner. It was perfect, and it went with a lot of the looks that I was doing, because I did a lot of warm tone looks as well as like green looks, and it worked really well for that. So that is the next shade. And then we have another eyeshadow that I'm panning, which I'm going to skip over. And then lastly, on the second row here, we have the shade Nectarine from the Pastel Roses, which I used twice. Moving on down here, we have a pressed glitter from Glam Shop in the shade Virus, or yeah, it's like a virus but with a W. I used this one 3 times. This shade I'm panning, and this shade I'm also panning, so let's skip over those. Then here we have the shade Get Lost from Colourpop. I used this one 4 times. Then up next to that, we have this shade here from Terry Moon's in Palladium. I did not use this one at all. It's actually the only shade I didn't use in my palette this past month. I'm going to pull this into different BYOP later in the year, because I do want to get used to it. I just didn't get a chance to this month. And then lastly, we have this shade here, which is actually from the Natasha Denona Metropolis palette in the shade Queen, and I used this one 6 times. So that is my BYOP for the last month. So before we do anything else, I'm just going to remove all of the shades in here, and you know, we can start fresh with a new palette. So let me just go ahead and do that. So that is the palette cleaned. I'm just going to wipe it down as well quickly before we put some new shades in here. I'm just using a makeup wipe to clean it up. But yeah, this is a fresh new palette now, and we're going to go ahead and fill it up with some new eyeshadows. I did put these here on the side because these, like I said, are the shades that I'm panning, so I'm going to put them back in the palette when we go forward, but these are all the things that need to go back. So yes, that is the palette for now. I'm going to put this down here, and hopefully it can still stay in frame, and then we're going to go ahead and pull out a new palette. So for this month, due to some orders that I made recently, I have actually decided to focus on 2 brands, which are actually the 2 brands you can see right here. That is Sydney Grace and Clionadh. I do have some mixed stuff in this palette, especially in my Sydney Grace palettes. I have some mixed eyeshadows, but I'm going to focus on my Sydney Grace and my Clionadh eyeshadows this month, because I'm going to get some new eyeshadow from both these brands very soon, and I haven't even reached for all of the eyeshadows that I have from them as of now. So I really want to make a focus palette to, you know, get some use out of those eyeshadows before I get in the new orders. So that's kind of my plan. So all of the eyeshadows that I'm going to pull in this month is going to be from Sydney Grace and Clionadh. I'm obviously also going to include these here because they are shades that I'm panning. I mean, this one is also from Clionadh, so that's fine. And then I have 3 kind of Colourpop singles, which are also going to be in use for, you know, rotation reasons. But that is my plan for my BYOP for this month. So I'm actually just going to go get my laptop as well to have it on the side to make sure that the eyeshadows that I pull in are things that I haven't reached for this year, because that's also going to be one of the goals for this month. I want to pull in shades that I have not yet reached for. So I think I'm actually going to start with my Sydney Grace palette and move into my Clionadh eyeshadows afterwards, just to, you know, get a better idea of what mattes I want to pull in. So we're going to start with the first palette right here, which is my blue and green palette. And in here, you know, I'm just going to pull out the shades that I want to work on. I also going to put this shadow back here, which was Virus from Glam Shop, that needs to go back in its home. So these are the shadows that I have from, you know, these are mixed brands. Like I have other shadows in here too, but I'm going to pull out specifically the ones from Sydney Grace so that I can use those this month. And yeah, I'm not quite sure exactly what shades in here are Sydney Grace and what are not, and what I have used and what I haven't used, and that's why I also have my cheat sheet in my laptop. So I do want to pull in some more kind of neutrally toned shades. I think these kind of cool tones here are too cool tone though. So I'm not sure I want to pull that in. I also am panning a lot of greens, but this light green here is kind of nice, and I think this would be nice to blend out other shadows. And I know this one is from Sydney Grace. This is the shade Sea Breeze, which is one that I haven't used this year, so I'm going to pull this one in because I think it will work really nicely with some of the eyeshadows that I'm currently panning. I think I'm mainly going to focus on the Sydney Grace mattes in this round because I do have all my Clionadh shimmers, and obviously all of the Clionadh eyeshadows are shimmers, so I think that's going to be easier. So I'm thinking for the rest of the greens here, I do have a lot of greens that I'm panning already, so I'm not sure if any of those works. Is there any blue eyeshadows that I want to pull in? I think blue would actually be quite useful because I am panning some blue eyeshadows as well. Another one might actually be this light here, which is another light kind of transition shade, which is the shade Perfect Storm. Again, I think it's going to be a nice one to pull in because I am panning some blue shades and that will work well with those. Is there anything else that I want to pull in? That's too similar to what I'm panning. I think since I'm panning a lot of blue and green as it is, I don't think there's anything really here that I want to pull in apart from these two shades. Again, there are some more neutral shades that I know are Sydney Grace as well, that would be lovely. But I'm not sure yet. Maybe this one here, which is Moon Landing. Let me swatch this one quickly. I mean, it could work as a transition shade. Potentially that one. What about this one here? And that's another one that's kind of like a grey tone. It's more green tone leaning though. This is Ivy League. I really like Ivy League, but do I want to pull that one in? Again, I think that's going to be a maybe. I'm going to swatch this one here too. Again, I'm not sure. I think I'm going to keep this two as a maybe and see how I go with the rest. But for now, I think this is that palette done. So we have my second Sydney Grace palette right here. We're going to open this one up. This is more kind of my warm tone shadows, you know, as well as my purples and things like that. But in here I know that I have a lot of things that I would potentially want to pull in, because there's a lot of shadows in here that I would like to play with more from Sydney Grace, especially these kind of rosy tone. This one here is Calling My Name. This is called Fairy Tale. I think this is one that I want to pull in and work more on, so I'm going to pull this one in too. Oh, I love that. That looks so pretty. Those shades together, yeah, they're really, really nice, like pastel shades. I obviously think there's some more shades in here that I want to pull in. I'm just looking at it to see what I think. Maybe this one here would be a nice one to pull in to like work with this more warm toned. This one is the shade Unpredictable. That's also a maybe. I mean, I don't want to pull in too many of the Sydney Grace because I also want to pull in some Clionadh. That's why I'm pulling in the maybe pile so that I can like pick between them off at the end. Is there anything else, like any like warm tone shades? That one is not Sydney Grace. Thinking maybe this shade on here, if that's Sydney Grace, it is. It's the shade Footprints. It's too similar to this shade, probably, but I'm not sure. I think that would work quite nicely though. That's another maybe. This one here is probably another one, and that is the shade French Hens. Again, very, very similar, but you know, it's a nice kind of shade if you want to build a look. But I think what I'm going to do is I'm actually going to pick between these two, and since this is a bit more different, I'm going to pull this one in, which again was the shade Footprints. Yeah, that one can come in, and then this one can go back, because yeah, I think that's a bit excessive having, you know, both of those. What about this shade? Is that a Sydney Grace shade? It is this shade Mum Ride. Again, I think that's going to be a really nice shade. That might be a really good, you know, to build that look. But that also means I probably won't pull this one in, because that will be like a look and not the other ones that I have. So that is one that's going to stay in. Maybe I want to pull in some more lilac shades. I think this one is a Sydney Grey shade. This is the shade Haven. I think that one is going to be a really nice one to pull in. Again, a bit more fun, kind of pastel shade. I think that's going to be another one. Anything else from this palette that is kind of speaking to me? I think for now that's going to be it for this palette. I might come back to it later, but you know, and also need to fit Clionadh in here. I'm hoping to fit some on this side here, and then maybe some both at the bottom, but that is going to be, you know, the next shade. And I do have one more palette that I want to go through with Sydney Grey shades, so I'm going to pull that one out as well. And that is my C palette right here with some more kind of neutral tone shades, to see if there's anything I want to pull in. I was really thinking about pulling in this white shade here to use more as like a inner corner shade and things like that. I really want to experiment with that, so I think I'm going to pull this one in as well. That is the shade Snow Queen. Anything else that I can think of? How about this shade? This is a Sydney Grey shade. It's the shade Speedway. Again, very similar to those shades, but it's a bit warmer, so maybe I want to pull this one in instead. I think that's what I'm going to do, to have some variety to other shades that I have. I feel like right now I won't really fit many Clionadh shades, so I think I might stop there. There is more shades I would want to play around with, but I'm going to stop before it kind of gets too overwhelming. So I'm going to scooch these to the side, and then we're going to be able to pull in some more Clionadh eyeshadows. I might even do this. It's not going to be as aesthetically pleasing, but I think I will have more space then to pull in some Clionadh eyeshadows as well. So that's where I'm going to stop. I'm going to put these two back because I'm going to pull in that one instead, like I said. And then, yeah, we can move from there. In this palette also, I forgot to put in some of these shadows that I'm missing. I should have done this before I pulled stuff out, because now I'm not quite sure where things goes. I'm going to improvise a bit and put them where I think they could suit. And hopefully won't mess up this palette too much with, you know, random orders and whatnot. And I think that's it for this palette. And then in the C palette as well, we have one shade I need to go back, which is this glitter shade right here, which I believe goes down in this corner. So that is going to be the next one, and that's all of the shadows I need to go back in these palettes. So we are done with these three, and let's move on to my Clionadh eyeshadows. But before we do it, I forgot to also put these two maybes back that I'm not going to have in the palette anymore. So let's do that, and now we're ready to move on to the next palette. So we have two Clionadh palettes right here with different shades in them. This is the more kind of colored one, and then we also have one with some more iridescent shades. So when it comes to my Clionadh eyeshadows, I have used a bit more of my Clionadh rather than my Sydney Grey shades, so I will have to be a bit more selective of what I pull in. But there's definitely some shades that I want to play with that I haven't yet played with. So I'm going to have a look and see what I want to pull in. I think I want to pull in one of the deep jewel tone multichromes up here at the top. It's going to be so difficult to get all of these out, but I do want to work on these a bit more. So I think one that I want to pull in is going to be Trefoil, which they're always so hard to find because they look so different in different lights. I think Trefoil might be this one here. I'm pretty sure that's that one. It's like a green to a blue one, so I'm going to have to get that one out. And what's the best way to go about this? I think I'm just going to go in from the side and then, you know, find the right one. Because I don't want to nick these if I can avoid it. Because that's the only downside, I think, to Clionadh eyeshadows, is that they're quite hard to get out of your pans. But they are beautiful eyeshadows and they're definitely worth it. So this one here should be Trefoil, hopefully. And it is. So this is going to be the first one that I pull in, because I think this is going to work really, really well with some of the more green and blues that I'm panning at the moment. So that's going to be the first one. Also, before I forget, I'm going to pull in this one again because I need to have this in the palette, because it can't really fit anywhere else. So, you know, that can go back there. These ones still I can fit in other places if I need to. So you know, I might fit them in like the actual homes. This one is you know, a deposit shadow, so I might ideally need to fit this one in here, but these two can go in the original palette if I need to. So I'm going to wait with those in the palette because I really do want to focus on my Clionadh and my Sydney Greys this month. So that's the first eyeshadow. I'm going to put these shadows back as well in their homes so that I can work on the next one, because I'm not going to pull in any more jewel multichromes. I think this one is enough because I don't reach for them every single day. And I do have a lot of other shades that I want to focus on this month. I'm having a look again on what I can pull in. I think, again, I'm going to look for shades that I haven't really used yet this year. These hybrid multichromes I do want to play around with more because I haven't really played around with them much at all. One shade that is calling to me is this shade right here, which I'm not quite sure which one this is, but it's a beautiful shade which I think will be really nice for summer. So I'm going to pull that one out, and hopefully it's one that I haven't reached for yet this year, because that would be amazing to pull in, because I think that's a really nice shade now for summer, and it's very shifty as well. So this is the shade Heiress, which I do not think I have reached for, so I will probably pull this one in as well. No, Heiress I have not reached for yet this year, so I'm going to pull this one in because I do want to work on that one. And I think that one will pair beautifully with these kind of pinky terracotta shades right there. So that's going to be the next one. And I think, again, that's going to be it for that formula, because I do want to kind of play around with different formulas and not just the same one. So that's the next eyeshadow. Next up, there's definitely some pinky tone shades here that I want to play with, and I think one that is speaking to me is this shade here, which I think is Kaleidoscope, but maybe it's a bit too cool tone for right now. I think it might be. Is there anything else? This shade here as well is a bit more summery. You know, it's a bit more subtle for being a Clionadh eyeshadow, but it does definitely have a shift. I think that's the one I want to pull in because, again, it's more of a summery shade. What else is a contestant? I think this one here could be one, but it's too similar, I think, to this one. Not exactly the same, but they are like similar vibe. I also really want to play with Grisaille, which I think should be this shade here. But again, it's a bit more cool toned. But I'm panning a lot of blues though, so maybe that would be nice to pull in, just to have some different, you know, variety. I think that might be it that I'm going to pull in. I think this should be the Grisaille, right? Yeah, it is Grisaille. This is a really beautiful eyeshadow. It's very shifty as well, so I think this is going to be the one I'm pulling in because it's just stunning, and I think it's going to give some variety to what I've already pulled in, because it is a bit more cool tone, but it still has like a purplish, warm purple base. So yeah, that's going to be the next one that I pull in. So I think that might be it for this side of the palette. I honestly only have room for one more, and I want to have a look at the second Clionadh palette I have as well, to see what else I want to pull in. I need to put some shades back as well. This blue shade goes here, which was again CL. That one needs to go up here. Then we also have the Deep Iridescence, which needs to go back in this corner right here. We have Vermilion, and then we also have Burnt Sienna, which can go there. So that is this palette done. I'm gonna have a look at the second one to see what I want to pull in from that one, because again, I only have one space left. So next up we have my second Clionadh palette, which mainly has my Vibrant multichromes, so the Vibrant and the Glitter Vibrant, the what's it called, Pastel multichromes, as well as all my iridescent ones from Clionadh. These are some Jelly Girl shadows, which obviously aren't related today, but these are the ones I'm going to pull from today. And out of these, I already have an iridescent shade, and yes, it's cool toned, and I would like to maybe have a warm toned one in at the moment, but since I only have space for one more eyeshadow, I do want to kind of prioritize and maybe pull in something different than an iridescent shade, because I also do want to play around with more of the tones up here. So I'm going to put this shadow here back in its place, which is Spectrum. I love this eyeshadow so much. That one needs to go back, and then I'm going to decide on what shadow to pull in. This one here is Crown Jewel. It should go up in its space up there, which, you know, fits right in there. And then yes, for the actual eyeshadows that I am considering, I'm thinking about this yellow here, which is Throne. I haven't played around with this enough. It's not as intense, but I think that would be fun, and I am actually playing a yellow, this one here. I think these two could pair well together. I'm also thinking about one of these pastel ones, because I haven't really reached for them very much, and again, this one would pair well with some more of the green and the blues that I'm panning. I think that would be nice. So those are probably my two top picks. This one would also be fun. Oh, that's such a stunning shade. That's very shifty. But is it too similar to that? No, it's a different tone of green. But I'm panning a lot of shimmery blues and greens as well. So I think it might be a bit too much having all of that. I mean, I also have that one if I want to go for a bit more cool toned, but this one is just so stunning. I think that one is Heirloom. That one would actually be perfect to pull in considering what I'm panning, but just for something, you know, a bit more everyday use, I think this one would also be nice. I think what I've decided, I'm not going to pull in the pastel one, because I think if I'm going to go for something a bit more subtle, I'm going to go for this one, and this one is more autumnal for me, or like wintry shade. So it's between Throne, which is this here, and Heirloom, which is those on here. So let me swatch them again quickly so you can see the comparison. So here we have those two shadows. They're absolutely stunning. I don't know how well the shift is going to be able to pick up on camera, but I can't believe these are the same line, because they are very, very different. Hopefully you can even see that in the sheen right there. You know what, I'm going to go for the more bold one, because it's just talking to me. I can pull this one in later on, the Clionadh eyeshadow, but the Heirloom shade just calling my name, and it's just such a beautiful eyeshadow, especially for like summer, so I want to pull it in now. And yeah, it is Heirloom. So that's going to be the last eyeshadow that I'm pulling in, and that's what my palette looks like now. I might see if I want to rearrange it a bit, and then I'm going to go ahead and swatch everything out. So here you have my palette. I have reorganized everything so that I'm pretty happy with the layout. So again, we have Clionadh on this side, and then we have Sydney Grace on this side, and we do have 8 Sydney Grace and 5 Clionadh, which I'm happy with, because I think I have more use out of my Clionadh anyway. And I don't know if you can see any of the shifts. I'm trying to move the palette around, so you might be able to pick up on some of them, but I will go ahead and swatch the palette out as well. So here we have my palette. Again, this is what it turned out. I also swatched out the shade that I'm panning, which was this one right here, because I thought, why not? It's the only one in the palette that I am panning, and I thought that would, you know, be nice to show you. So this is my complete palette. I don't know how like cohesive it is necessarily, but it's just a lot of shades that I want to get some use out of, and I think I can definitely create some nice looks. Like this, and this would create a really nice look. The blue and this will get a really nice look with some more blues that I'm panning. I have this one and some more greens. You need to think this is like a companion palette to other things that I'm panning, but there's definitely some complete looks in here as well. I could even use Grisaille with this purple, and yeah, I'm excited to play around with these shadows. There are again some more shadows that I want to get some use out of, and I'm very, very excited to be able to play with this more. So that is my BYOP for today. I really hope you enjoyed it. Since it is so hard to show the swatches of these multichromes, I'm gonna insert a video of this in the mirror, because I'm filming in my kitchen and I have a mirror on this side here, and just moving my arm around like this, I can see the shift so clearly in all of the eyeshadows, and it's insane. So I want to see if I can capture that with my phone, and if so, I'm inserting it when I'm talking about it right now. But yeah, overall I'm very excited to play with these shadows, and I'm hoping to pull for all of these at least, you know, twice, hopefully in the next month, if not more. And yeah, you'll get some use out of my Sydney Grace and Clionadh eyeshadows while I wait for both orders to come in. So that is it for today. I really hope you enjoyed this video, and if you did, please go ahead and give it a thumbs up. And otherwise, I will catch you in my next one. Bye guys.